What began as a mutual respect for each other's work soon evolved into a genuine friendship between Tibi-Founder Amy Smilovic and Yasemin Demirci, founder of The Store by Schneeweiss. A bond built on shared taste, creative synergy, and a deep understanding of what personal style really means. Together, they've opened a new chapter for Tibi in Europe, with the very first Tibi Studio in Vienna. We sat down with both of them on the morning of the official opening. Let's dive in. Hi and welcome to the latest episode of the Style in Progress podcast. My name is Lisa Hollogschwandtner and I have the pleasure to be sitting here today with two incredibly inspiring and creative women. But I'd love to leave the introduction to the both of you and ask you if you could maybe introduce each other to our listeners today.
I'm Amy Smilovic, and I'm the founder and creative director of Tibi, based in New York. And this is Yasemin.
Yes.
Am I pronouncing it?
Yeah, you're perfect. Yasemin Demirci. Yeah.
And we've worked together for 15 years?
For 15 years, yes. Yeah.
So you would think
yeah.
I'd get the pronunciation right by now. Like 15 years together. And you've created our space here in Vienna.
I created a space here, yeah. So I founded the store by Schneeweiss 17 years ago, and I started with Tibi, yes, right, 15 years. So my first order was 15 years ago, yeah, with a showroom, not directly with you. And then, after several years, we start working together, yeah.
Long time.
Yeah, 15 years are definitely a long time. And as the two of you already told me, there's also a kind of a friendship that has emerged over the time. What do you appreciate the most about working with each other? I think that would be an amazing start into the conversation.
For me, it's that we share the same mindset. I think we're both very creative and very pragmatic at the same time. There's a real directness and respect, I think, that we have with each other, which is always critical. I think it's critical in business, but I think it's critical in friendships and any relationships that you're direct but respectful, right? That would be another brand, direct and respectful. I really appreciate Yasemin as a founder, as a businesswoman, as a mother, a wife. Like we share a lot of the same experiences, even though we are separated by an ocean and continents. And I think when you find someone that shares your same mindset, what I love about that is it doesn't predetermine exactly. I can't guess how you will think about everything specifically, but I do understand how you think about things. And when you understand someone's principles and how they approach things, it is really just a great experience in working and being friends with someone.
And actually, it's easy as well to work with somebody. Yeah, you trust each other. Yeah, so there is no kind of, what should I do? What I have to do? Or it's just you're doing it naturally.
It's not a chess game.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so it's completely naturally. You're just doing it. Yeah, and you know that. Even if it's not 100% what you were had in your mind, but it's perfect direction,
Perfect. So beautiful. My favorite part actually about all of this being a video podcast is that our listeners can also see the beautiful space we are in. And I think it's safe to say that it's not your typical fashion boutique. It's something totally different. It has so much soul. How did the idea of the Tibi Studio come together? And also, why is it so important for you guys to not have this fast-paced approach to retail?
I think for me, we had always gotten so many requests from customers around the world to have a space where they could really come in and see the full collection. And I've always wanted to be able to give that, but at the same time, I'm really committed to us being a small company. And we just, I appreciate just making very specific items that we love, not making too much and keeping things very manageable. So how do I do that? And then also be able to really let people come and see the line. And I approached Yasemin a while ago and I said, you know, do you really need all those other brands in your store? What would you think if you just turned your entire store into a Tibi store? Like, I think this could be amazing and it would free you up and blah, blah, blah. And
My
you
answer?
said, no, you were like, I've worked so hard. I created my store. I selected the brands carefully. I know my customer. And you said, I appreciate it that you would want to do that with me, but no. And then I think a few months later you called
No,
and you were
actually,
like,
it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't like really a few months later. It was just because I had something in my mind, and
Yeah.
we were always talking about doing something together. And I had something like that in my mind before, but it wasn't the right timing before.
Right partner, right time,
Exactly.
everything.
So and then I thought, this is perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually. And then I think just a few weeks later, I just sent you I would say the proposal. I said, this is what I have in my mind, because it's, changing a space which is for 17 years there, which has some already the customers and, it's a multi-brand store, changing it to one brand, then it doesn't it wasn't the right for me actually, but I know that we need that space for Tibi, because we have the customers, we have the woman wants to be here and enjoy the space,
Yeah, and I think that's when I was saying we share a similar mindset. It was when I was proposing that she turned this into a Tibi space. It wasn't like this written, locked up proposal. It was really grounded in the idea of how could we really, service really you're servicing the not America world, because you've got all the Australians and everything that come here as well. So I think once we kind of knew in our minds what we were wanting to do, exactly how we would achieve it was just to be worked out. And then you did. And this is so much better than anything I could have imagined. It's wonderful.
That's really beautiful. Of course, I've done a little bit of research and preparation, and there's one sentence that really stuck with me. It was, people come here for the clothes, but they stay for the conversation. I think that's really, really beautiful. And it's also something that's, that we are talking a lot about at Style in Progress, especially when it comes to women's wear. We really believe that the customer is looking for some kind of deeper connection and a calmer approach, as I've already said before, less noise. That's something that you are definitely approaching with your one-on-one appointments that you're doing the next couple of days. Why is it so important for you to meet the customer in this direct way? And maybe we can talk a little bit more about that in general.
I think that people are really starved for intelligent conversation, and it's not like I play tennis, and there's a difference between when you're playing a tennis match versus taking a ball and just smacking it against a wall. And that's how Instagram feels to me. It's like your ideas and you're smacking it, and then your ideas are coming back at you, and you're just playing a game with yourself. And I think that these women that I have met over the last 5 years now, I throw something out there and then they turn it on its head, just like you did, right? You were like, no, thank you, but maybe this. And there's something really rewarding in that. And before COVID, I had been in business since 1997. So it was, we had 23 years under our belt. And it was deeply, really unsatisfying at the end of the day. It was wildly successful if you looked at a P&L and the gross sales, but I hated what we were doing. And the women who were wearing the clothing, they would come and they would tell me the compliments that they got in it, or that it made them feel thin or whatever. And I never cared about that. I was like, that's great, whatever. It was never really fulfilling. And when I did get out on social media in 2020 and I connected with Yasemin, I have this whole trail of texts of you and I. I remember sitting on the couch, in lockdown, and you're in lockdown. And we thought, we have to get out and do what we have to do. And I got to get onto this beast of social media and start talking. And it's a place that I never really came out on. And once I did, though, and I was just being very direct, I find that the one good thing about social media is you get what you give. And if you are clear, if you're direct, if you refuse to be pithy, then you attract that. And every now and then, a person who's not of that ilk will come in, and then you move them out of the room. But we started finding that we were attracting the people that we were attracting. And the great thing was we weren't attracting the people that we didn't want to attract. And it was never a group that was sliced by demographic or income or age or race or religion or anything. It was a slice of people that really shared our mindset. And appointments. I just got back from London, and appointments last an hour and a half, and probably an hour of those appointments is just really having genuine conversation that is very stimulating.
Exactly, you do that. We are working with customers for like almost 17, 15, 10 years. So no, we started with them working together when they were maybe like in their final year of university, start with the first job, like getting married, getting the first child, the second child. So those people, those women, yeah. And it has nothing to do with if they are living here in Vienna or somewhere else, yeah. Like those women you are connected with, yeah. So they are coming from everywhere, but they have kind of the same mindset. And what they need is they just want to have a real talk. And that's what I realized, because that is what I like, just want to have. If I go to somewhere, even if I'm going to a restaurant or to a bar, what I appreciate is, of course, the good food. But if you have good food without someone who is standing in front of me and talking with me, I would say, no, I mean, the food is nice, but the people around are not nice. Yeah. So that's the most like important thing, I think, the people, yeah, the humans which are in that space, which are like talking with you, laughing with you, and maybe as well crying with you. We have like as well women who just want to sit here and say, hey, give me 5 minutes. Yeah. Take your time. Yeah.
The last time I was here, this woman, Fiona, had booked an appointment from Ireland. And I remember she came for her appointment, but like an hour and a half later, I was like, shit, you haven't tried on any clothes yet. And then a year later, Fiona came with some other women, and we all rented a house together in Sea Island, Georgia. And she's met my parents. And like these people really, these are some of the best friends I've ever made now, because you don't get a chance in life very often to meet people who share your same mindset. You meet people who you went to school with, you lived in their same neighborhood, your kids went to the same school, you worked in a cubicle next to each other in your first jobs. But it's rare that there's an opportunity to meet people purely on the level that they share a similar mindset. And that mindset that's creative and pragmatic is really, it's not very common. You would think that it is, but it's not. And when people find each other like that, you glomp onto each other.
Yeah.
I actually got goosebumps listening to both of you, really, because I think it's so beautiful, all the things that you just touched on. And actually, that's also something that I've written down, because I wanted to talk to you about the fact that when looking at consumer behavior overall, we definitely see the tendency that people like to spend more and more money on things like hospitality, great food, you've said it. Also, beauty is increasing when it's like really special brands. And I was wondering, because I don't think that it's because fashion has lost its aspirational value. I think it's the way that fashion is often presented and sold. And maybe we can talk about that a little bit more, because what you're doing here is the total opposite, right?
It is. And it's, there is one thing, because it's just not only with Tibi, it's as well with other brands too. I think what is important is you have to know your customer. And then if you know your customer, and if your customer, like, if you have the trust of your customer, if they believe in you, they will just come to you and whatever you give them, so they will just say, she picked it out for me, that must be okay and that must be right. That must be the right thing for me. And I think that is what's like, I would say some maybe stores, some brands are missing in here. So that you have to build a relationship with your customer, which is the first thing. And then once the customer is there and they trust you, they will follow you, and they will just give you this,
Yeah, I think that's very true. And I think it was true a long time ago. But I do think that the world of e-commerce shattered that for a really long time. And it made the relationship invisible between the store owner or the brand and the consumer. And I think that a lot of really good people behave in a way on e-commerce that they would never do in real life. I think there should be like a whole series of memes about, like a person who would come in and be so respectful one-on-one would never ever walk into your store and throw 20 items on your desk and be like, here, I just took these and then I put them all on and I'm just throwing them back in your face. It gave you permission to do things that you would never do in front of another human. And Instagram gives you permission to write things that you would never say to another human. And so I think that we are attracting people who want to be human, who are bummed whenever, when someone does something like that in our world, I always give the opportunity first where I'm like, don't do that. I'm sorry. Like, they'll write to me with 20 complaints about something in our e-commerce and I'll say, well, Michael, Arthur, and Sandra in the warehouse, when they should, like everyone has names and they're real people. And once you bring it back to real people, some people really settle down from that. And, but we've had really a lot of lost years in business where you have e-commerce and then, where are my 800 new arrivals today? And if I look at dresses, where are my 5,000 dresses that I have to choose from? And no one asked for that. No one ever asked for 5,000 dresses to choose from. And so this is not 5,000 dresses. These are real people. And I think it is desperately needed. And some people don't realize it till they have it. And they're like, wow, this was lost. Or you have a Gen Zer who comes in and says, this is so innovative and new. And you're like, okay, I mean, it was the way it was 15 years ago, but whatever.
Totally.
I'll take it as new from you.
Totally. Talking about this constant overflow, I think it's the perfect time to come back to your brand and your core philosophy of creative pragmatism. Could you, I'm sure a million people have already asked you this question, but could you please define it for our listeners? And do you think that the world maybe needs a little bit more of it right now?
Okay, so two things. Creative pragmatism came about because I was very frustrated when people would ask me to describe my line, and I would use the words but and a lot. It was eased out, but not sloppy, and kind of sexy, but definitely not. And it's very like forward thinking, but not pretentious. And they would inevitably just be like, you know what, come back to me when you know who you are. And I would have traditional sales directors in the industry, and they would say, Amy, please, like, just choose. Are we sexy? Are we bohemian? Are we modernist? And I was like, little bit, yes, and then definitely. And they were like, that's not a thing. And I had a marketing director at the time, Emeka, and he had come back from Japan. And he was like, there are these groups of kids in Japan, and they create these funny names for themselves. And they don't mean necessarily anything, but they give it a meaning. And he's like, we need to give Tibi a meaning. And immediately I was like, creative pragmatist. And he was like, no, that's like, let's make up something more fun. And I was like, no, I love the directness of it, because that says I have permission to be very creative, but I'm always grounded and pragmatic at the same time. And so I felt that grabbed the nuance and it gave it a name. And when you give something a name, it tends to settle people. But I think where it has gone since then, and then your question about what the world needs is, I find that understanding that there is nuance to things, that not everything is this or that it is sometimes something in the middle, but the middle is not a bland place. It doesn't mean that you have not really committed here or there. Here is something. It is a real thing, and you are giving it a name. And I think giving people permission to not be so black or so white, but be gray. That gray is a color too. And actually, in the world of color, it's more of a color than black or white. Gray is a color. And that is what creative pragmatism is. It is definitively an absolute opinion that is like, and maybe I'm not right. Tell me more. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, we've already talked about social media, but I think since social media has gone so big, we've got even faster in trying to put everybody in a box. And you, with that statement, giving people the permission to, or also a reminder to feel that it's okay to not be either end of the scale, but just in the middle. It's beautiful, I think. I've already checked the time and it flies. And I know that you're having a lot of appointments today. So I think I will come to my finishing round, kind of. It's my final 3, as I like to call them. 3 questions that I would love to answer you in a maximum of 1 sentence, if it works. But could happen that I have some questions, follow-up question, and then we'll be talking a little longer too. And the first question would be, what is the best advice you've ever received?
I mean, I can say, like, what is the best advice I give myself is always trust yourself and your gut feeling. And when you feel comfortable, then it has to be right for you. And I think for the people around you as well. If you don't feel right, you're not authentic.
Mine is such a compilation of things that I've merged together in my head, I think, over the years. But I think that the best advice is something I think that we ended up giving ourselves during COVID, and that was to really state firmly what our core principles are in life. And when you really understand what is deeply important to you, it becomes your measuring stick for everything, and it helps you make really good decisions. Because when things crack into your principles, I think the saddest person is someone who is unprincipled. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how much of anything that you have. When you lose your principles, you've lost everything.
Beautiful. Thank you for the reminder. The next question is, if Tibi clothes could talk, what would they say? Kind of like a philosophical one, I know, but
I think this is something you have to answer.
I always look for a way to be, there was this hippie saying from the 60s in America. It's like, you do you, I do me, like whatever. It's whatever that, they put it on signs in coffee shops. But it really would say, yeah, whatever. Like you do, Tibi clothes don't care about imposing themselves on anyone else. They really are like, okay, I'm here, and nothing about them should make someone else feel bad.
No, yeah, that's, I think,
it just lets you be. They just
exactly.
let you. They settle it's like they're there to just settle your mind and just be, and then by doing that, you just let others be, and you're not trying to impose yourself.
Yeah, I think that is the point. It's just not, you just wear it, you just feel yourself.
Yeah, your shoulders relax.
Yeah.
They're shoulder relaxers.
Yeah, that's amazing. Last one, final one. At Style in Progress, we're talking a lot about the word realness at the moment. And the 3 of us talked a lot about social media, Instagram, the world becoming more and more digital, and also, in my opinion, a little bit more superficial. given all these circumstances, what does it mean for the both of you to be real?
Oh,
For me, to be real is to really be comfortable asking questions and digging deeper and very open to discourse. And, when someone's too much of an absolutist, it cuts things off. It cuts off conversation. It cuts off everything. And I think people should end many more of their sentences with a question mark than an exclamation point. And we'd all be in a much better place if that happened.
I think I just have a picture in my mind when I'm sitting together with my family, and I have like 2 boys as you, and they're in teenage. So realness is when you're sitting together having dinner and not really like, I'm not meaning fighting, but you're discussing, and you have like maybe 4 different opinions, and everybody is allowed to say, what they have in their mind and just discuss it. And by the end of the day, you would say, like, I love you and go to bed. So this is realness for me. If you really are able to do that, and this is something you have to do as well with friends, with customers, you're allowed to say,
You're allowed to say, you have to defend it.
Yeah.
And then you have to drill down to make sure of that person. Like, when family, you share so many principles at a core, this idea of cutting people off is just such a terrible idea.
True. What both of you said reminds me of a poster that I have in my office, and it says, always be a learner, not a knower.
Yes.
And I think that sums it up quite well.
Yes,
I've definitely
totally.
learned a lot during our conversation, so thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
And I can't wait for the opening tonight and everything that's to come for Tibi in Vienna.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.